Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of the syndicated talk show, People of Distinction. The talk that gives you an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, alcoleenterprises.com for more info. Email me at benji@alcoleenterprises.com if you'd like to get involved with what we have going. And as always, please continue to like and follow our broadcast because People of Distinction is a nationally and internationally syndicated show because of listeners like you. Our shows are available across all major podcast distributors as well as YouTube. And if you keep following, we're going to continue to put out the content. We appreciate the support. Continue to like and follow and sit back and strap in because on the line with us today, we have the impressive Dr. Richard Burkhalter. And we're going to be discussing his amazing book, And God Said, Knowing Who God Says You Are Will Change Your World. It's available for purchase through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, a whole host of other places. But if you want to gather everything that Dr. Richard has in store, people, listen, check out his personal site, all right? And that's called andgodsaid.net. There, you're going to gather more information on Dr. Richard himself, more information on this amazing book, hyperlinks set up to take you to the purchasing pages. But people, you're going to want to check back in frequently because Dr. Richard has another book that is still in creation, not available for purchase just yet. That one will be entitled Power. You're going to want to gather that one the moment it becomes available as well because I promise you, it is sure to be just as impactful. Now, before we go any further, I want to take this opportunity and point out the fact that Dr. Richard was brought to our network, People of Distinction, today by one of the best publishing firms in the business. People you already know, I'm talking about Citi of Books. So if you're a writer out there, you've gone through your process, and now you need help moving the masterpiece you just developed. Well, look no further than Citi of Books, people, because this is exactly what they specialize in. Now, you're going to want to head on over to citiofbooks.com today and gather all the ways that their fantastic team is going to help you do just that. And listen, it is a true pleasure to have Dr. Richard here on the line. People, his book, And God Said, is going to be a magnificent resource that you want to add to your shelf. All right, it is an informative narrative about not only the power of God, but as it says right there in the subtitle, how he can show you who you truly are meant to be. It's an amazing exploration and something you're going to want to get lost in. And at the end of the day, you got Dr. Richard here to thank for all of it. Now sit back, strap in, and make sure to have your notebooks ready, okay? Because he's about to take us back to the classroom. This is about to be an education that we're all going to receive here. Dr. Richard, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you very much for being a guest. How are you doing today, sir?
Hey, I am doing great. Benji, thank you so much for having me on the show. I am excited to discuss this book. It has been a couple years in the making, and I'm just excited that it's out and able to be put in people's hands. Thank you for having me.
Well, listen, thank you for writing it, man. And it's a pleasure and an honor to have you here to discuss it because like I mentioned in my opening, your book is tackling something that, listen, regardless of who you are, where you are, your economic background, your community that you come from, these are questions that we've all pondered and we've all contemplated. So the fact that you're even tackling such a monumental question here and doing it with, the Bible as your backdrop, as your foundation, I know it's going to reach a lot of people exactly where they are. So thank you for being here with us to discuss it, man. We're looking forward to it. Before we jump into this wonderful book, Dr. Richard, tell us a little bit more about yourself and your background, please.
So I am 54 years old, but I tell you, I feel very young. I have been married for 32 years now to an amazing partner, my wife, Erica. I've been a minister for many years. I am a college professor at an amazing Bible college here in Ohio. I have 2 grown children. I have 4 grandchildren. My story is a little bit different. I've been very fortunate. I grew up in a small town in West Texas, joined the Army fresh out of high school, was able to experience quite a bit, see the world. was in Iraq 2 times I am currently a disabled combat veteran.
Wow.
And it's just been an amazing, for me, I think it's been an amazing life, and I am really looking forward to the rest. But I'm also, I have a master's degree in theology, and the Bible is just something that has been really amazing to me. It's, I think for a lot of people, you pick it up and you read it, and it can be hard to understand. It can be, we have a Western mindset, and it's a book written to an Eastern culture. So, when you begin to really study something out, and I feel like it comes alive, and I'm excited what I was able to dig out of it for this book itself. But that's a little bit about me. So.
There you have it. Well, listen, a little bit about you, but you've said so much. First and foremost, before we go any further, I always, whenever I'm on the line or even just talking to any military representative, the common phrase is thank you very much for your service. And I'm going to offer my thanks. But I'm going to tell you, in full transparency here, Dr. Richard, a thank you never seems good enough for the amount of sacrifices that not only you, but all of your military brothers and sisters have made protecting our freedoms here in the States, man. But at the moment, a thank you is all I have to offer, so that's what I'm going to give. But I understand that I know it doesn't do nearly enough.
Thank you.
Dr. Richard, without further ado, let's jump into this amazing book, And God Said. Tell us a little bit more about the words on those pages.
All right, so let me start by saying that this book answers that question that every one of us grapple with, and that is, who am I? You touched on it at the beginning, Benji, and you were correct, right? Who am I? Discovering that answer is hard because so many of us, we spend our lives looking in places where that answer just cannot be found. Most of us, we end up defining ourselves, or we find our identity, unfortunately, in what we do. Often it's our career, it's our relationships, maybe it's our appearance or our reputation. Sometimes it's our children or our grandchildren that become the defining characteristics of who we see ourselves as. And unfortunately, this can become what's called an identity crisis for us if our relationship status changes, if we lose our job, if we have to start over, if we become an empty nester, or if our reputation becomes soiled. Because those things aren't permanent, and we can't base who we are. But most of the time when you ask someone, who they are, hey, who is that person? Oh, he's a police officer. Oh, she's a nurse.
Yeah.
We describe each other as what we do. And so it can become an identity crisis when things change in our life. So those things, because they aren't permanent, who we are, our identity, what I've discovered is it actually begins with who God is. And God, as our creator, the one who made us, all of us, in his very own likeness, his very own image, the creator who breathed life, his life, into us. What he says about us is more important. It's more impactful than what anyone else, what society, what culture, and what other people say we are or try to identify us as. And understanding our identity, this book is about understanding our identity in him is what will provide all of us with the right foundation to build our life on. Knowing our identity in God is the key to successful life because it offers meaning and purpose. And meaning and purpose can only be fulfilled based on knowing our Creator and understanding his plan for our lives.
Listen, that's some pretty impactful stuff here, Dr. Richard. I love it. I'm curious to know. Listen, I understand, given your background, why a book of this magnitude and even approaching the concept was something that was interesting to you, something that was a passion of yours. All right, I got that. But this very easily could have just been something that, you preached about to those in your local congregation, or that you told to those around you, or even a book that you've created and kept on your personal shelf. What inspired you to move forward and transition to publishing this book now for the world to take part in as well?
This book, that's a great question. I want to share a couple things with you about that. So I am fortunate enough, especially as an educator at the college level, to deal with young men and women, right? Mm-hmm. Young men and women who struggle every day with who they are. I watch them. Statistically, the American Psychological Association literally says that 82% of people under the age of 35 face feelings of imposter syndrome. They struggle with the sense that at any moment they are going to be unmasked as being incompetent because they have found their own personal identity in such things as social groups, societal trends, and even the culture around them. Mm-hmm. Quarter of men and women 35 and under said they don't really like themselves. And 88% of young women, and this is research from 2024, 88% of young women, compare themselves to images that they see on social media, with 50% saying that those images actually make them feel unattractive. 97% of them admit to having at least one "I hate my body" moment every single day. Mm-hmm. So this book is inspired by struggles, and by the struggles of so many people who define themselves or have found their identity or have been labeled by society due to their mental health, their unique challenges, their crisis, their addiction, their confusion, whatever it might be. And I, as a professor, as a minister, I get to counsel people, and I get to talk with people that deal with these struggles. I have friends that deal with post-traumatic stress disorder, and they've defined themselves by their sickness. They've defined who they are by their illness. Depressed people introduce them. They let everyone know that they're depressed. They begin to define themselves by their anxiety, by their depression, by their different things. So I wanted to get this book out because I feel like we have bought into a lie, right? Mm-hmm. What isn't realized on a spiritual level is that the wrong identity can destroy each one of us. It can limit us. When I say destroy, I'm talking about what it limits us, right? We miss out on who we are supposed to be, who God has planned our future to be. And with our identity in God, I believe comes our power, comes that authority that we were originally given when we were created. So I wanted to make sure that this became more than just a sermon that I was able to teach or share with a handful of people.
People, I'm telling you, this conversation has just begun, and there is so much here. You got to head on over to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, check out his personal website, and godsaid.net, because this is a book you need to add to your shelf. And understand, like I said, just as I mentioned a moment ago, that the conversation is just now beginning, this book is the precipice. It's going to help set you off on that journey. But understand there's a lot more still ahead. But through this understanding, through now raising that awareness and the conversations that will ensue because of it, you're going to be unlocking some doors that, have seemed hidden before. And, Dr. Richard, my follow-up question that I want to go into, because I think you hit on something remarkably compelling and really disheartening. I wish I could say that it was a surprise, although I didn't know the specific statistics based upon, what you were just talking about. And the one thing in particular is you're talking about this imposter syndrome that I think can be found in a lot of different generations. Although I do believe that in more recent times, given the advancement of technology and the surge of social media, without knowing specifically, because people this is solely an assumption on my part, I think it's fair to assume, but I have not done the research, so I do want to put that out first and foremost. But I do think that social media and the rise of social media accounts have really exasperated that concept of imposter syndrome. You hear about it a lot in terms of people seeing things online and then feeling very negatively about themselves because they see this impression that people are given, and there is a piece of us that can then believe that that is actually true. Although we know that a lot of it is just smoke and mirrors. Well, my follow-up question now that I want to go into here, Dr. Richard, following off of that point, how do you believe you can help your readers distinguish between what they want to be and what they are truly meant to be?
That is a great question. Well, what they want to be and who they're truly meant to be. And where that has to go back to, and first off, you touched on it, the age of social media. And again, I don't have that research, but I mean, we can look at the age of social media. We take family pictures on our iPhones, and I have 30 filters that I get to use to make my skin look better, right?
Right.
To make sure the sunlight is not affecting anything. Rather, I get to fix anything in that picture that I want to make it look better.
Yeah.
I get to display to the world only the best of me. No one anymore gets to ever see the worst of me or the bad day. They get to see only the best of me.
Mm-hmm.
So that can make you feel like an imposter, that at any moment, all of the things that I've posted on my social media account and are going to catch up to me if someone sees me in the wrong light. And I'm going to be labeled by that very society that follows me because I'm so addicted to the likes that they're going to say, well, wait a minute, I thought it was this, or I thought you looked like that. Mm-hmm. So I think that to answer that first question, I wanted to answer that, but to answer your other question, I think, and now to answer that question, I'm going to need to go back to my worldview. And my worldview is, as a theologian and a Bible scholar, is biblical. It's a biblical worldview. And so for me, I look at things, and I want to start it with this. So talking with a group of young adults, right? Start to show them in the Bible the many different scriptures where they are called such things as we are, right? If you're reading the Bible, we are called such things as overcomers, as new creations, as sons and daughters of God, as heirs and joint heirs with Christ, right? As fearfully and wonderfully made creations, as God's masterpiece, right? These things are things that God himself says about us as his creation. We look at things like made in God's likeness and made in God's image. And we can see that these are things in ways that God identifies humanity. And where the problem lies is we have gotten so far away from the way our Creator has called us and sees us. And if we stepped into and believed that we were all of those things that I just said, like He believes that we're all of those things, how much more would we walk in that authority with your chest up and your head held high, believing you are those things, as opposed to the world we live in telling us that what we need to be is whoever, identify as whoever, let your identity be whatever you want your identity to be. That it can be emotional and it can be ever changing, but it's not true, because to do that gives you a crisis. And that's what is exactly what that is called, right? And that's been going on since the beginning of time, right? There's been identity crisis. Every generation has dealt with those unique challenges. Every culture has, and the Bible actually talks about it in Ecclesiastes. It says, what has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There's nothing new. And what happens is it becomes dangerous when we begin to deny truth. It becomes dangerous when we begin to do things the way we want. When we begin to live for self, the danger of it becomes that we miss out on purpose. We miss out on the best that we could have had for ourselves. When we begin to take all of that on our own, we begin to have a disturbance in the identity that we were created to be, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Absolutely. People, like I mentioned, the discussion is just beginning. So understand that there is a lot left off the table, and I could sit here, I could talk to him for hours because there is that much content to go over. Yeah, but I'm gonna start to hone it in now. And as we close out of here, Dr. Richard, I'm curious to know, what has writing this book revealed to you about your own purpose, and how has that deepened your personal relationship with God?
Yeah, it is. Writing this book has really, I think for me, has really become transformative. Mm-hmm. It is really, it's really transformed a lot of my own thinking. It's easy. I think a lot of times it's easy for people, especially people like me. I look at things a lot of times in an academic manner and begin to study things. And it's easy to teach things. It's easy to preach things. It's easy for someone to say, oh, you are an overcomer. Oh, you are a masterpiece. And as I began to really research and dig into this, I began to see exactly what all of those things meant. And in the book, every chapter covers almost everything that I talked about. What it actually means to be an overcomer, what it actually means when God says you are a new creation, what that looks like, what that means for you in the spiritual, of course, but what it means for you now, right where you are. What it means that you are that you're a son and a daughter of God. I mean, what does that look like? And you can refer that, begin to refer that to your own life and growing up and what that means to be part of a family and a perfect family. Maybe you grew up with an imperfect family, but what it would look like to be part of a perfect family. And all of that just began to, when I began to research that and begin to reveal those things, I think it really brought me so much more closer to the Lord. And I'm just really excited for people to read this, and the people that have read it. I'm so thankful. I've just got nothing but great reviews from it, and I've had letters and people DM me and all kinds of things. But this book truly, it literally changed me writing it, because you can't help when you begin to truly understand something, it does transform, right? When knowledge becomes power in all of our hands, right? And so when we increase our knowledge, we actually do increase our power, and it does increase, especially when you start talking about from a biblical aspect. When you're dealing with something that has been written, that's God inspired, and it talks about and inside of its words, it shares the very nature and the character of our Creator, and you begin to understand, well, he said I'm this, and what does that mean? And when that opens up and you get it and you understand it, it is transformative, and it takes you to a whole different understanding. So writing this book really stretched me, and it has really grown me in my relationship with God and with my knowledge of who I am. So it was just an amazing ride.
Yeah, well, the amazing ride is just beginning. Take it from him, take it from me, take it from the reviews that you're seeing online. People, again, the book is called And God Said. Knowing Who God Says You Are Will Change Your World by Dr. Richard Burkhalter. It's Amazon, Barnes & Noble, but make sure to check out his personal website, andgodsaid.net, because this is one you're truly going to be benefiting from. You know, in preparation for today's interview, the quote that kept coming to my mind was, of course, the famous quote by Mark Twain that I'm sure all of you are familiar with, that when he said that the two most important days in our lives are the day we're born and the day we figure out why. And that is something that I think, you know, we see a lot. I mean, we talked about social media before, right? I mean, it's a common social media post. That's what a lot of people use because it's a brilliant formulation of words. But it also resonates so much. And when you figure out that purpose, there is the liberation that you're going to feel is something magnificent. Like I mentioned, this book is the precipice. It's going to help you get there. It's going to help you on your journey. But remember, it's just a start. Check back in frequently because he has another book entitled Power that's going to help you in another leg of that journey. But there is a lot there. People, you know where to go. Pick up your copies today. Dr. Richard, this has been a true pleasure. I really do mean this, man. An absolute honor. Thank you once again for being a guest on People of Distinction.
Thank you, Benji. Thank you for having me.